This will be the dev stream roundup for the streams that took place between February 5th and February 19th, 2021. Starting with February 5th, that was Phil, Lalta, and Brittany, and it was an hour and 10 minutes. Brittany starts with talking about her first community event, which is Fan Art February. If you're interested in submitting fan art for this, I'll leave a link in the description for all of the details. I'm sure that as part of her role with Chromatic Games, Brittany will be hosting other events like this in the future. Chromatic Games has an Instagram account that Brittany is active on. That will be linked in the description as well. Fusion damage on pets and pet transmog is not out of the question, but there's a lot of other stuff they want to get in first, and they may revisit that in the future. In the coming weeks, Chromatic will be providing a new public roadmap to go over features coming down the line after they rework their internal schedule for what's coming. All of the engineers have been polishing the Xbox build to make sure it's up to Microsoft's standards. Once it's done, they'll be working on the next major content update. They are still in the certification process for Xbox, but they are down to working out very small single issues. Rifted Dark Elves no longer show up on easy through insane difficulty when playing Rifted. Build timers for campaign have been removed if hardcore is disabled, and Lalta states that they are always looking through metrics to see if build timers should be changed for better balance with hardcore on. The transmog profile limit is set to 16 to prevent data overflow for profiles, but may be increased in the future. At some point, they want to revisit the inventory system to make improvements and optimize for split screen. When asked if they would be willing to put out smaller updates more frequently, Lalta responds that content updates usually come in big chunks because they don't want to release new content without a broader context. They want new content to be part of a cohesive package rather than a small amount of new content without context. Not much for this one. They talked a lot about anime, not sure what that's all about. Next up is the dev stream from February 12th, 2021, which featured Phil and Lalta and was an hour and 7 minutes. A balance and bug fix patch was dropped on February 11th, and there were some pretty major changes to the Squire. The patch notes, as well as a video from Juicebags detailing the changes, will be in the description, but the big changes are better HP scaling with Vitality, Slice and Dice blockades now only cost 6 DU instead of 8, and both the Slice and Dice and Bouncer have better HP scaling with Fortify. They're potentially looking to make a few more changes to some other heroes, ways to tweak them, and add some fun mechanics. It was stated that Xbox is in a 99% state. They're looking to update one of the versions of Unreal Engine that DDA is on, which would improve optimization and performance. Phil states outright that there is probably a 0% chance that DD1 is coming to modern consoles. If anything, they would probably have to outsource porting it over. The process with certification for Microsoft is currently Xbox goes through the game and finds one or two little things that are wrong, lets CG know about them, CG patches them, and then they resubmit. And they've been doing that over and over for a little while now. A lot of the work being done for Xbox will transfer over to other consoles as well. Phil specifies gamepad support and performance as examples. Lalta states that over time they will be making a lot of gamepad improvements. They discuss how complicated working in the Summoner would be right now, specifically how to balance having a pool of minion units or what to even do about minion units, and programming the AI on the minions themselves. Lalta states that they have plans to look into small changes to DD2 in the future, but the vast majority of their focus is on DDA. Phil states that translations for tooltips and the UI are ongoing. They will be increasing enemy strength and gear caps in new content with future updates, but they will not be adding a new difficulty tier. They briefly discussed there being a meta and being able to AFK or be less involved in maps as something to build towards. When asked about revealing the armor cap for Deeper Well, they talk about how it's very complex to calculate armor caps for different maps and difficulties. They are also hesitant to make the formulas public because they don't want to have to justify every little change. Phil mentions that he likes the idea of a Roomba pet that would collect mana in a larger radius. Lalta says maybe it could be something between a rock and a giraffe. That would be pretty cool. Last but not least, the dev stream from February 19th, 2021. This was Phil, Lalta, and Brittany, and it was an hour and 8 minutes. Phil states somewhat sarcastically that one day the DST meta must end. Lalta goes on to clarify that the idea is not to nerf DSTs, but to bring other defenses up to its level. The same principle would go for heroes. Regarding the amount of enemies spawned, they're planning to reduce the amount of enemies on the screen in later waves, but make them stronger. This will improve performance and help with getting the game to run well on consoles. Rifted is actually an example of a performance save, with it having shorter wave sessions. They're focusing on removing more fodder enemies in the place of having the true difficulty being behind bigger, stronger enemies so that they can hit those performance gains and have it running better for consoles. Lalta mentions that March will be a really fun month and that they'll be talking a lot about stuff in March. If anything big is revealed, I'll post roundups for those streams much more promptly rather than waiting for 2 or 3 in one video. Chromatic does track certain metrics that in theory could be pulled up on a per player basis. A UI and a way to pull it up by the player would need to be created and implemented, but it's possible that we may see the ability to access some stats like the number of times we've completed maps in the future. Some work has been done on the named items and enemies that are part of the Kickstarter rewards. They have not been forgotten about, they are on the way. They're looking to take a pass at damage numbers and nameplates to improve performance and function. They may add a cast bar to certain enemies like the Jinn or Sirens. There's a bug currently with rebinding W, A, S, and D on your keyboard that Phil has already fixed and will be coming in a future patch. It's safe to assume that this patch will be coming before console release. There was talk about rebalancing weapons in the future. Maybe there will be more than 1 or 2 viable weapons endgame for each hero if that does take place. Split screen will not be available on launch with the Xbox version. Development for the Switch version is ongoing still, but it's not the focus currently. That said, there is a lot of overlap between the work being done for the Xbox and the other console releases. Given the amount of work it would take to implement, it sounds like we won't be seeing guilds or an in-game friends list. We could be seeing quests, personal events, or goals in a future update, as well as worldwide events where the player base has to achieve something collectively. It was talked about as something that would be cool to see, and we may get down the line. That's going to do it for this dev stream roundup. Any questions or concerns, leave them in the comments. All relevant links will be in the description, and thanks so much for watching.